Hi, Hiram here. In my last video on the PowerPot will Sterno work question and answer thing, where I was trying to clear up some of the things that I had said in the previous video, I forgot one question that had been asked me a couple of times was, how did I measure the voltage on the PowerPot? So I thought I'd cover that a little bit here. Now, if you're not comfortable working with electronics and stuff and power, electricity, don't do this. I have a degree. You don't need a degree in electronics, but you do have to be careful. What I used in that was my trusty old multimeter, Radio Shack multimeter, which if you're familiar with these, you know how they work. If you're not familiar, you probably don't have one, so you won't be able to do this. But a multimeter is a multiple meter. It measures things like DC voltage, AC voltage, checks for diodes, resistance of wire and stuff. So I just use this. Now the cable coming out of the PowerPot is some sort of a strange connector. I have to see if I can find one of these. If I had a connector like this, I could measure what the voltage is coming out of the PowerPot. But what I did was, at the other end of this cable, this goes into the PowerPot, goes into a voltage regulator box that they have here. That's where the little light is. And on the other end is a USB port. You know, the standard USB port like what's on your computer. That way you can plug in USB things to it. So what I did was, I have a multitude of USB cables. I just sacrificed one of them, cut the one end off, kept the, I guess this would be the male end that goes into the female connector, like so. So I could get into that. But the other end, I just cut the connector off that was there, and inside are 4 wires. Red and black for power, red positive, black ground or negative, and then 2 data wires. Don't need to know that. But you just need to expose the red and black wire. Now, you can get cheaper wires than this. You could go to your dollar store and buy some cheap USB fan or something. Light. They'll come off with a cheap thing like this. So for $1, you got yourself a cable. But in that case, this cable only has 2 wires in it. And in this case, it was red and white. So I checked them for polarity, and the red was the positive and the white was the ground. So you could go that route too if you didn't have a pile of USB cables to mess around with. Instead of firing this up again, I'm going to use this little solar power pack that I have. It has a USB port on it also. Stores up electricity using the sun. I like to use this sometimes out on the trail. Doesn't hold a lot, but it does hold some. But this will give me power so I can show you how this works. Excuse me. So all I did was turn on the multimeter. Now I'm sure I'm boring some people. If you know all this stuff already, you might as well just shut off the video. But you turn on the multimeter. I have it set on DC voltage. Can you see that? DC voltage. I'm going to check the voltage rather than the current. That's a whole different story, but this time I just checked the current. So it shows, because it's not hooked up to anything. There, does that work? Like that? It's not hooked up to anything, so it's reading about 0. So my cable, my cable is connected to the multimeter through little micro clips. The other end is free. So I'll stick this into the power pack, and it should give me 5 volts or so. Now this one, maybe it's overcharged or something. It's showing me 5.3 volts coming out of this DC, 5.3 DC volts. So that would charge up some stuff. It's picking up the light from my overhead. It has 3 lights on here to show you when it's under solar light, solar powered. The one light shows up. If it was draining, the other 2 lights show you how much electricity you have left in the battery. But anyway, that's how I did it. Just sacrificed a USB cable so that I could get at the 2 power wires. then micro-clipped it to my multimeter, and it gives you the voltage. Again, I want to see if I can find these connectors. It's an old type connector of some sort. I've never used this. If anybody's familiar with this, please let me know. It's got two flat probes on it. I'd like to get a hold of a couple of these just to be able to play with. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry it turned out a little bit longer than I planned, but that's how I measure voltage. So I thank you for watching. I look forward to your input, questions, remarks, helpful suggestions, and as always, watch for my buddy Max. Bye now.